All right, so season 4. Well, I'm just gonna go out on a limb here and say that season 4 probably is the best season of this show, and that's not to say that the other seasons are bad, but season 4 just seems to have the best qualities of all the other seasons. I mean, it just seems to have the. I mean, it just seems to have the best, or the most consistently good pattern going on. I mean, I don't really think there's a particularly bad episodic arc going on this season, and I think they get the weakest one out of the way first, and that is the episode arc where it's essentially an underwater campaign where Skywalker, um, Padme Amidala, and Ahsoka Tano go underwater along with a lot along with their clone army to help Admiral Akbar and his people against this underwater droid army led by this evil guy with a shark head. Um, Really, the best visual representation I can give for how this guy looks and how this guy moves is Harry Potter 4, where Victor Crumb, when he's doing the underwater challenge, he takes that potion, and in the movie I think you only see it briefly, but he takes the potion and it transforms his head into a shark. It that that's basically that's virtually identical to how this shark guy looks in the Clone Wars. Um, if only he had an interesting personality, because this guy is not a very interesting villain. I mean, they try to say he has a personal vendetta against the Prince of Admiral Akbar's people, because Admiral Akbar, he's not the leader. He's trying to convince this young prince to take up his power. And kind of assert his authority and but this shark guy is constantly undermining those efforts, and he's leading the droid army against the Jedis. And on the surface, this episode is very interesting visually because again, at least in this rendition, we haven't really seen any battles underwater. We saw a brief underwater battle in the Micro series where the squid-headed Jedi, the Kit Fisto, he basically got underwater and led a bunch of underwater soldiers against the underwater droids, but this is a solid 3 or 4 episodes. No, it's 3 episodes where the Jedi are. It's very interesting the way they pull this off, because they have these underwater suits that the underwater suits actually look pretty practical. I mean, contrary to a lot of other contraptions in this universe, they actually look fairly terrestrial, and it's interesting because the way these episodes are lit and the way the environment feels, it naturally, being underwater, it naturally feels very different from anything we've seen before, just in terms of atmosphere, because there's hardly any light. The underwater suits actually have to be lit inside the helmet for you to be able to see their faces clearly, and yeah, it's interesting visually, but the thing is, I think they go on. I think it goes on for a little bit too long. I think this could have easily been accomplished in 2 episodes, but they stretch it out to 3. And I don't know. It just gets a little. I don't want to say grating, but it's like I said, it goes on for a little bit too long. And I think the whole underwater aesthetic and the novelty of having battles underwater kind of wears out its welcome after a while. But thankfully, it's only 3 episodes. I mean, it could have gone on for a lot longer if they really wanted to torment us. But yeah. Oh, I forgot to mention that Kit Fisto is also in these episodes. He's still voiced by Phil Lamar, doing that Jamaican accent. But it's thankfully not offensive. Kit Fisto just happens to have a Jamaican accent for some reason. I don't know. Maybe they thought the tentacles were like dreadlocks. I don't know. But yeah, you will probably be interested by how this episode looks. But after 3 episodes, you'll be glad to move on. And the whole storyline with the prince and his personal vendetta against the shark guy, it's not really very interesting because we've just been introduced to this prince guy. He's a little bland. He's not a very strong character physically or emotionally. And I just feel that we could have been focusing on something or someone a little bit more interesting. I mean, imagine how much more interesting these episodes would have been if Kit Fisto had a personal vendetta against the shark guy, and that kind of took him to a whole new place. It kind of challenged him as a Jedi, because while we haven't really spent that much time with him, we haven't really been just introduced to him. We've seen his character. We've seen how he's kind of this laid back character who can actually go for the serious when needs be. I don't know. Maybe I just don't like these episodes that much because Jar Jar is in it. Because underwater they feel the need to bring Jar Jar for some reason. I don't know. He's not that bad. He's not that bad. And oddly enough, the next episode, which is a standalone episode, called Shadow Warrior. It's an episode taking place on the Naboo planet from Phantom Menace, and it has him and all his fellow Gungans in the episode. They're actually not that bad. I can't believe I'm saying that, but this episode basically, it's not in the water, it's not underwater, it's thankfully back on land, and basically Jar Jar Binks and his other Gungan buddies lure General Grievous into a trap, and this is where this is one of the few instances where I actually liked the Gungans, because what they do is that they covertly disarm all of General Grievous's battle droids, and they basically all gang up on him at once. And the Gray Gungan from the movie, the Phantom Menace movie, who's kind of Jar Jar's second in command. The captain guy, the Captain Gungan guy. He's actually given a little bit of time to shine, because he actually briefly holds his own against General Grievous, and then even when General Grievous kills him with a spear, that's just a way for him to get close enough to stab Grievous in the neck and incapacitate him, so that they can capture General Grievous. So Jar Jar and his friends capture General Grievous. Don't really know what this says for Grievous as a bad guy, but it actually shows the Gungans to be somewhat effective. I mean, these ninja Gungans who are who are I don't know. I just like that whole segment, and it takes place. I mean, it takes place in the rain, and you can see the little drops. I mean, the animation has gotten this good where you can actually see the little drops falling on the characters, and you can see them getting wet. Oh my, oh my! I like that. I really like that sequence, and I'm actually kind of sad that the Captain Gungan guy. I'm actually kind of sad that he died. Even though we barely got to know him, he was probably my favorite of that species, and he died sadly. But but unfortunately, they do not get to keep Grievous in custody for long because Skywalker, in pursuing a bad guy, comes across the lair of Count Dooku, and Count Dooku lures Skywalker into a trap so he can capture them and make a prisoner. So he can capture him and make a prisoner exchange. So they don't keep Grievous in custody for long, and ultimately the Gungan sacrifice was pointless. So, way to ruin a good moment. But yeah, the one time the Gungans were actually cool, and it was for nothing. And the episodes after that are basically visual treats because it's the two episodes after that focus completely on R2-D2 and C-3PO. Now, I will give this show a little bit of credit for wanting to do an episode based on R2-D2 and C-3PO because we haven't really gotten much of a chance to see them together. Even though I was never really that interested in them to begin with. But these episodes, the episodes with them do provide some kind of visual variety because the first episode basically deals with them going around this. They're sent to a planet and they go underground and they find this planet has a very mystical, almost fairy tale-esque history because they come across this visual entity, this visual spirit chick who can dissolve into sparkles. They come across these. I don't even know what they are. These what are they? I mean, they come out of the walls, or they sprout from inanimate objects, and they look and move kind of like the Ents from Lord of the Rings. And I don't even know what they are, but all I know is that this episode it basically deals with C-3PO and R2-D2 setting the planet back into balance to prevent a bunch of earthquakes, and it has something to do with restoring the planet's spiritual center. It's a weird episode. It's probably one of the weirdest episodes of the series because there were several points in the episode where I was like, "What is that? Where are they?" But if you want to see something, if you want some visual variety on Star Wars, watch that episode. Just don't expect all your questions to be answered. And the following episode just basically details them palling around and basically getting kicked around several locations because it's basically they get stranded on this droid ship. They get on this junk planet where they expose this kind of Wizard of Oz-esque entity who's basically controlling all these other people. And this actually leads to one of my favorite gags in the series, because they come across all these little people, these little action figure sized people, and the pompous leader of them is saying like you better you better get off this planet while you still can. And C-3PO is like, oh yes, we will do just that. Come along, R2. Why do you have to be so antagonistic, or something like that? And he hits R2, and this causes R2 to fall over and squash the pompous leader guy. And you actually see when they pick R2 up, you actually see this kind of green slime all over R2. It's actually kind of dark when you really think about it, because he basically just squashed this guy into jelly. Oh my god, it was so funny. Maybe it's just me, maybe it's just because I really like dark humor like that, but it was just out of nowhere. The timing was perfect. I just really like that gag. But after that, the next 4 episodes are probably my favorite 4 episodes in the entire series. And surprise, surprise, they are clone-focused episodes. And once again, this show is daring to go places visually where Star Wars has not gone before. They go to this planet called Umbara, and it basically kind of looks like something out of Mass Effect or Republic Commandos, or Star Wars Republic Commandos, where it's this very dark planet. You don't really see, you don't see the sun at all. It's and the inhabitants have these weapons and warships that have never been seen. The clones are completely unfamiliar with. They're having a hard time countering this threat. And originally Skywalker is leading the charge, with Captain Rex and one of the surviving clones from season 1 episode Rookies, because at this point all but one of the clones from Rookies are dead through various circumstances, unfortunately. But I believe his name is Fives. Yeah, Fives. And so Rex and Fives are the two big experienced clones in the unit. And Skywalker, for reasons unknown, gets called off planet and replaced with this four-armed big bulky Jedi with a goiter. It's basically the same species that you saw in Attack of the Clones, where everyone goes to that diner to get intelligence on the toxic dart, and the diner's owner, who has 4 arms, he looks all slimy. It's the same species as that guy, but with a deeper voice, more commanding voice, and I believe he wields 2 double-bladed lightsabers. Yeah, two double-bladed lightsabers, and he's very strict. He doesn't really hold the clones in very high regard. He always refers to them by their numbers, and it basically challenges the clones. He purposely sends them on these kind of suicide raids. And he gets all pissed when they come back and fail to capture a certain position. And even when they succeed, he's like, "Oh, well, I suppose you're not that useless." And it basically challenges the clones to decide what makes a good soldier, and whether or not that always has to do with strictly following orders. And basically, it all eventually builds to a very tense confrontation between Captain Rex and this general, this 4-armed Jedi general. And there's a twist that's revealed near the end that I kind of have mixed feelings about. It does give Captain Rex the opportunity to. It does give the clones some really good moments, but at the same time, it kind of diminishes the the menace that has been building with this Jedi General up to that point. Like I said, it's not completely out of nowhere, but you just wish the payoff was something more. You just wish the payoff was not something as cartoonish as or as predictable as what they eventually came up with. But yeah, overall, just the sheer focus on the clones. Again, because in my opinion they are the most interesting characters on the show. Just the sheer 4 episode focus, the very interesting visuals, the very dark foreboding visuals of this planet, the and some really good character moments for a lot of the clones that really more than any of the previous clone centered episodes really serves to humanize them a lot more. These are my favorite 4 episodes of the series. It's my favorite episode arc of the series. I'm just putting that out there right now. Which in hindsight may have contributed to my disappointment with the next 3 episodes of the series, which is basically an episode arc on slavery. Ahsoka Tano's species gets enslaved by these bobcat people, and Skywalker, Kenobi, and Ahsoka Tano basically have to infiltrate this and Rex too. They basically have to infiltrate this slave market to abolish the this whole slave trade, and it really kind of hits Skywalker where it hurts because he used to be a, albeit very cheerful, slave in the Phantom Menace. Now, okay, this episode arc is based on a Clone Wars comic book that was published around season 1, and I actually have read the comic book, and I feel it necessary because I'm not a huge fan of this episode arc. I think there are a few missed opportunities in terms of where you could really go with the drama of Skywalker. But for the most part, it just amounts to action, and making the Bobcat people very two-dimensional. Okay, the Bobcat people are these aliens called Zygerians, and in the comic book, they actually look a little too Star Trek-esque, I think. They really do look like Klingons. And I'm guessing they wanted to avoid a possible lawsuit for the series because they changed them quite a bit. Like I said, in the show, they basically look and act like Bobcat people. They look like, I think they have claws. Their faces look very feline. They're not very threatening. They all have Italian accents for some reason. I guess that was a way to distinguish them as a species, but I just was waiting for some of them to say "It's me, Mario," because they're not, like I said, they're not really that threatening. A lot of their attitudes towards slavery seem really two-dimensional, and maybe that's just because the writers of the show didn't really want to go too deep into the issue of slavery. They didn't really want to go too dark because really you could easily, this is the stuff out of Spartacus or Game of Thrones, and they're putting it in this kids show. so there's very little risk taking in terms of content here. Really, I said this before. This is one of those instances where I think the network and the style of show that they were making really got in the way of the potential that this episode could have in terms of really expanding how far you could go with a Star Wars product. And like I said, I think they really missed some valuable opportunities for Anakin Skywalker to confront his past. And I really think they missed out on some potentially very heart-pounding or heart-wrenching character moments between him and Ahsoka, because again, it is Ahsoka's species that is being enslaved. Yeah, I just think it's a relatively wowless episode arc. But with that said, there are some interesting points in it. They have these light whips. They have the voice acting isn't the voice acting is still pretty good, and this is where and while I'm at it, while I'm on the topic of the voice acting, Ahsoka has gotten very, very likable at this point. She has completely stopped being annoying, and actually formed herself into a character that the audience would not mind. That because she was originally there to basically be the audience proxy. She was there to give the kids something to relate to. Considering how A, she's formidable as a fighter, and B, she's not annoying anymore, I don't really think many audience members, even guys, would mind being plugged into her shoes, because she has really grown into this. It's really kind of impressive how they've progressed from this really tooth-grindingly irritating little brat character to this more mature beyond her years. I'm trying to think of the word, because maybe some of this has to do with the redesign. They felt the need to make her more mature with a more adult-looking redesign. She's not full-fledged adult, but she looks about, I don't know, 17. Still too young to be in a war, but I guess that's something you just have to accept. I like her character at this point. And yeah, the next episode arc is better, in my opinion. This next episode arc is basically, actually no, not yet. The next episode is a standalone episode, where Ahsoka goes on this. She's basically tricked and unintentionally abducted by this teenage guy that she met back in season 3, when she and Padme Amidala went to visit Padme's friend, and Padme's friend in the Separatists had a teenage son who became fast friends with Ahsoka, and they kind of briefly touched on their differing ideologies and their different viewpoints, and he was a little bland back then, but now, since his mother was killed by Count Dooku, he's seeking revenge. So he unintentionally drags Ahsoka along, because she happens to be on the ship, and she wants to take him back to the capital planet. He unintentionally drags her along to this snow planet, and a very beautifully animated snow planet, because you can see every little drop of snow. You can see the character's breath. You can see the wind blowing their coats around, and so he takes her to the snow planet, where he basically seeks the help of Death Watch, The Mandalorian terrorist group, who since back in season 2 they were allied with Count Dooku, but I guess since then they had a falling out. So the leader, still voiced by Jon Favreau, still miscast, but I'm not going to harp on that. He now has a shaved head. He now has a scar that was supposedly given to him by Count Dooku, and he's now just as driven to kill Count Dooku as the kid is. And the reason that he welcomes the kid into his ranks is because the kid had previously tracked a transmission that Count Dooku had sent to him after he had purposely made a scene at a separatist council. So basically the entire episode is Ahsoka and Lux Bonteri, the teenage kid, kind of trying to hide, it's basically them trying to not be discovered. It's Ahsoka trying not to be discovered because obviously if she was discovered, then they would kill her. And for some reason, Jon Favreau's second in command is voiced by Katie Sackhoff. They don't really do much with her. I mean, they were hyping it up like crazy. Like, we got Katie Sackhoff! And she has 4 lines, if that. She has more to do in season 5, but here it just seems pointless to have a name actor like that in such a minor role. This could have easily gone to anyone. But I'm guessing. My only guess is that they knew that they wanted to bring her back in season 5, and they did not want to have to deal with the inconsistency of having a different voice actress. So they just decided to have her voice the character in season 4 also. That's my guess. That's my defense. I'm sticking to it. But this episode is decent. It's a standalone episode, which in this season is rare. I mean, I think this might be the only standalone episode of the entire season, because all the rest of them are just episodic arcs, like 2, 3, sometimes 4 episode arcs. It's very rare that we see a standalone episode anymore. But yeah, this is a decent episode. Although I don't really think. Once again, I don't really think they. I don't really think that Jon Favreau is a very menacing bad guy. I don't, and once they get to the location of Count Dooku, it doesn't really go anywhere. They just said, "Good, we got this intelligence. Let's celebrate." And then after the celebration, they found out who Ahsoka is, and she and Lux make their escape. Lux having seen that they are killers because they slaughter an entire village. And basically after that, we never see them go and try to kill Count Dooku. We never see them do anything with the location that Lux gave them. It's just okay. I guess they dropped that plot point, or they never got around to it again. The next episode arc is way better. The next episode arc actually deals with a fake out toward the beginning, because in chasing a random sniper, Obi-Wan is shot and supposedly killed. And when it first happened, and Anakin and Ahsoka were all sad, and they had a Jedi funeral, I was just like, okay, they cannot be serious, because Obi-Wan is in the movies. But sure enough, right after the funeral, Yoda and Mace Windu, the Sam Jackson Jedi, they go to what I can only assume to be the medical suite at the Jedi Temple, and and just see Obi-Wan sitting there fine, and they're like, your fake corpse gave a better performance than you did. um, and Obi-Wan's like, what are you talking about? I fell off a building. And so I can only assume they gave him some kind of drug to stop his heartbeat, or something. I don't know, but their basic their basic their basic plan was to hire this bounty hunter who looks like Jason Statham for some reason. I mean, I don't know if Jason Statham was the direct inspiration for how this guy looks, but their basic intention was to hire this bounty hunter to think he killed Obi-Wan Kenobi, and then incapacitate him, record his voice, and then get his DNA, so that this robot could morph Obi-Wan's face into a likeness of this guy, and then get his voice recording into this little ball, and have Obi-Wan eat it and be able to perfectly replicate this guy's voice. It requires a lot of suspension of disbelief, and a lot of people might argue, why don't they do this more often? I mean, is this technology illegal? I mean, it would have helped if they would have explained this technology is illegal. This technology has just been discovered, and we're now destroying the formula, so no one can ever use it again. That would have helped, because it does raise a lot of questions. Why don't people do this more often to deceive their enemies, or spy and gather secrets? I don't know, but their reason for doing this is because this one guy in a Republic prison supposedly has a plot to escape from prison and assassinate, or not assassinate, kidnap the Chancellor, and he won't tell his interrogators anything. Apparently he will only talk to his cohorts, and the reason for this bounty hunter killing General Kenobi is so that he can get into this guy's good graces, because if you kill a Jedi, then that basically means you mean business. So Obi-Wan has to basically fall in with this guy, help him escape from prison. But what he does not count on is Cad Bane has also been hired by this guy, to break him out of prison. And it's basically this 4-episode arc where they go around the galaxy. They get into conflicts with each other. They constantly backstab each other. That goes on for about 2 episodes, and then they go to Count Dooku's rallying point, where he has all these other bounty hunters who are basically going to compete for the honor of being one of the select few who are chosen for the mission to kidnap the Chancellor. And it's basically this it's this gauntlet of challenges where it's basically last few guys standing, because they have to dodge all these traps. They have to do all these challenges. Like if you don't shoot all the targets, then the platform beneath you will disappear. It's kind of like a video game, but not really. And that provides for some decent excitement, because you don't see any of these bounty hunters in the movie, so they can have a lot of them die. And it's interesting to see a lot of these different species of bounty hunter, and how they utilize their different skill sets, even though they don't really have much in the way of personality, at least not that we see. And this all culminates in Obi-Wan exposing. When they go to Naboo to kidnap the Chancellor, Obi-Wan purposely betrays Cad Bane. He arrests him, which that was kind of sad, because I think this is the last time you see Cad Bane in the entire series, which that sucks. He gets arrested, and that's the last you see of him. Oh my god, he's my favorite character. Oh, but you base um, and they think it's safe, and just when they think it's safe, it's revealed that Dooku had a plan all along to distract the Jedi with this kidnapping attempt, so that when everything looks all good and clear, Dooku could surprise the Chancellor and Skywalker with a meeting, and and basically kidnap him. Don't really know how that fits into the Emperor's plans, considering the Emperor is the Chancellor. But I'm not gonna dwell on that. He and Skywalker have this duel. Skywalker basically, and this all causes Skywalker to have some of the feelings. It basically causes some of the feelings that he displays in Revenge of the Sith, where he's saying, like, why didn't the Jedi tell me this? Why didn't you tell me this, Obi-Wan? You're supposed to be my friend. Why didn't they trust me with this? And that is a good point. Why did they have him go through this emotional turmoil? I mean, why couldn't they just tell him up front? Because he could have acted just as easily as Obi-Wan. That Obi-Wan was dead. I mean, it seems like all the Jedi except for Skywalker and Ahsoka were in on this. So it actually does lend a little bit of reason to his distrust of them in the third movie. But the final 4 episodes of the season, again dealing with Asajj Ventress, who at this point has become a very interesting character. It's dealing with her and Savage Opress, the Clancy Brown, Darth Maul brother guy. The first episode is actually this really kind of darker episode where Count Dooku, knowing that the Night Sisters betrayed him by sending Ventress and Savage Opress to kill him, he leads this he tells General Grievous to lead this massive droid invasion of the Night Sister planet, and they basically massacre. The episode is called Massacre. General Grievous and his droids basically kill all of the Night Sisters. The Mother Talzin chick, the leader of the Night Sisters, disappears, and Asajj Ventress is mortally wounded and is kind of forced into exile, and because all her friends are dead. I mean, the people that stuck up for her when Dooku betrayed her are now completely wiped out. So she's really kind of an outcast. And again, I was very interested because she is at this point has become an understandable 3-dimensional character who I could really get behind due to her very tragic past and how her life just keeps getting flushed down the tube. It doesn't really seem like she can settle in one secure place without everything crumbling around her. And I don't know why people love characters like that. I don't know why characters like that seem to work. Maybe it's because it sometimes replicates life, how life doesn't always go how we want it to. How at some points everything can just come crashing down or seem to come crashing down. I don't know, but I really like where this is going. So, and the next episode basically has her as this very monosyllabic bounty hunter chick. I mean, she has no goal at this point, so she turns to bounty hunting, and she kind of falls in with Boba Fett, who has since broken out of prison, and he has gotten a buzz cut. He has a little mini helmet. He has a little mini Boba Fett uniform, and he's actually much more formidable than he was back in season 2. I mean, I don't know. He's still voiced by the kid who played him in Attack of the Clones, but he's more serious. He's more effective. He's not dwelling on his daddy anymore. He's again. It's still pretty silly to see this gang of bounty hunters following a kid, but this particular episode deals with he Asajj Ventress basically falls in with him for whatever reason, and one of the members of his gang is Dengar, who's this turban wearing bounty hunter that I think you saw in Empire Strikes Back. Apparently he was British, and here he's voiced by Simon Pegg, who again does not have a ton to do, but he can be funny. He can get off the occasional good line. He's hitting on Ventress, which was kind of cute. And in the end, Ventress gives up on Boba Fett. She leaves his gang. She's just when she's found a place that's where the other members of the gang accept her, she leaves because she's I don't know. She just doesn't feel like like she really belongs there. And this actually leads to her inclusion in the next two episodes, which basically deals with Savage Opress on instruction from Mother Talzin to go and find his exiled brother Darth Maul, who was chopped in half at the end of episode 1. Darth Maul at this point has essentially become this. He's hiding out on this trash planet, and he's become this very degraded, very very bony guy. He's formed some makeshift spider legs for himself out of different scrap metal. He's mumbling to himself. He's kind of like Gollum. He just in the way he looks and acts. He's rambling. His brother can't make any. Savage Opress can't make any sense of what he's saying, and it was actually pretty nice to hear Clancy Brown actually get some intelligent dialogue, because when he popped up in season 3, he was just kind of he was either grunting or uttering these very monosyllabic phrases. So here it was actually kind of nice to hear him form coherent sentences and give him a sense of purpose aside from just being mind controlled. But yeah, he finds Darth Maul, and Mother Talzin somehow refits him with these sleeker robot legs, restores his mind to what it once was, and Darth Maul is now voiced by Sam Witwer, who voiced the apprentice in The Force Unleashed. And basically Darth Maul is kind of like, oh yes, the Clone Wars began without me. Okay, and basically his singular goal is to have vengeance on Obi-Wan Kenobi, because Obi-Wan chopped him in half and basically destroyed his sense of purpose in life. So he and his brother ambush Kenobi, and just as they're about to kill him, Ventress shows up and rescues him. Probably because no. It does explain why she's there, because since she has become a bounty hunter, she hears of this big horned guy that has been terrorizing this bar, or not bar. She learns of the bounty put on Savage Opress's head, so that is why she follows him, and it's this kind of two-way duel between her and Obi-Wan versus Darth Maul and the Savage Opress, and eventually her and Obi-Wan have to go on the run because they're completely outmatched. And it was nice to see Darth Maul back again, and he does talk a lot more this time around. They actually do give him a character, unlike in The Phantom Menace, where he he didn't say anything. They give Sam Witwer gives him this really intense voice who's and they give him this this very outcast attitude, kind of like Mad Max in Mad Max 2, who how he's essentially lacking a purpose in life, but fuel that with a intense desire for vengeance. I mean, that's really the best word I can describe Darth Maul with. The way that Sam Witwer portrays him is that he is very, very intense, and that coupled with Clancy Brown as Savage Opress really does make these two guys really pretty intimidating, especially for a kids show. And the season ends with a cliffhanger, with Darth Maul basically alive and well, and his goals as yet unknown. So yeah, season 4 was really solid, and I was very interested to see where it would go from here.